Hello and welcome. I am Lady Calamere, and this is going to be my 60-second video, and it will be on the goddess Elen. I wonder where my assistant is. Lady Bost, are you here? Here she comes. There she is. So, this is going to be about a goddess who's starting to become more popular. She's still within the shadows, and there's a lot of what she is shrouded in mystery. Now, the one to coin her, this goddess Elen of the Ways, is Caroline Wise. Now, there is some misconceptions about this lady, being that, oh, she's just a Dianic goddess, and she's to replace Kronos, the horn god, so that it will appease the feminists, and that Elen really never existed. Not the truth at all. And let's get a good look. This is actually... Now, there's no such thing as a horn goddess or an antler goddess. And antlers and horns are two different things. It drives me nuts when someone looks at antlers and calls it horns. Nope. If you know anything about biology, you will know the reasons why they are different. So, we got another goddess who in some guises had antlers, and that was Artemis. In some guises, and the more shamanic versions of her. But also this is labeled as Artemis Diana, and I use this as Diana. Now another goddess who is sometimes seen with horns, not antlers, this is antlers, horns, is actually the goddess Bhairavi. So, and we also have Philodeus of the Tois de Danann. And she's a lesser known goddess or deity, however you want to see it, of the Celts. So, and we got this. This is some people use this as Kernanos. I use this as Dianus, which means horned one. And you can see. Now, they're saying, well, female deers never have antlers. Have you ever heard of the reindeer? Well, the female reindeers sport a rack of antlers during the colder months, during the darker half of the year. They're not as huge as the male with the rack. The male loses their antlers. They shed their antlers for the winter months. So that means all of Santa reindeers are actually female, including Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is female. So, let's talk about Elen. Let's talk about who she is, what she is. Maybe why would you want to worship her? What's so great about Elen? And what can we find throughout in her history? Elen, she's actually in the Mabinogion. She's in one of the branches of Mabinogion, and she was also later becomes the same character, becomes Empress of Rome. Yep, there's an Elen in the Mabinogion. So, in the dream of Maxen, which actually is the Emperor Maximus, And he takes, what he does is he goes on a hunting trip. He takes about 37 people with him, and he goes on this trip, and they finally come to a rest, and he sleeps, and in his dream he travels through these roads, through these paths, and finally he goes up this hill or mountain, and he finds this marvelous castle, reddish goldish castle. And in this castle he sees two boys, young redheads, playing with chess pieces, and another, an older man, making a chess piece. And next to this man is a woman. She's beautiful. Her brightness is like that of the sun, where he can't keep his gaze on her. She is said to have creamy white skin, and she sits on a chair of reddish gold chair. And he falls in love with her. When he wakes up, he's lovesick. He needs her. He wants her. He has to find her. So all he could think about is this lady that he saw in his dream. And this is called an ashling. Traveling in a dream. It's spelled A-I-S-L-I-N-G, but it's pronounced ashling. So he sends people to find her, and in which they find the pathways to this castle as he's described in his dream. And there they find her, and they tell her that the Emperor Maxim loves her, and that he requests that she comes with him. She tells them with her sovereignty that if this Maxim really loves me, he will come for me. And in which she does. And he asked her for her hand, and she said yes, on these conditions: that her father is able to have the land of Britain, and that she's able to have 3 other lands, and that she becomes empress. And in which, of course, he does. And she's called Helen. Empress Helen. So we see that her name could be Ellen as well as Helen. Now Ellen, E-L-E-N, is a Celtic word for light and shining. We see even from this story that she doesn't come to the beckoning of the emperor. The emperor comes to her. The emperor meets her demand for marriage. We see here that even in this story, she is the Lady of Sovereignty. She is the land, but she is the land in its youth. She's the land that is pleased by the king. The king has to marry her and has to do a ritual to become actually authenticated or an ordained king. Now, when the king displeases the land, she becomes old like the Coilach, cold and barren. Ellen. Now, the Welsh word for fawn is Elaine, E-L-A-I-N. And if you look in Bosnia, it's Lane. In Lithuania, for deer is Elnias. The Bulgarian word for deer is actually Elen, which is interesting. I know what you want to do, little girl. You want to break my stuff. Oh, she just moved the tripod. Elen, in her aspects of the goddess, we see maiden, mother, crone, but there's also maiden, warrior, mother, crone, and sovereign queen. Here we see her as sovereign. We also see her in her virginal aspect of being free and wild. Now, when one thinks of Kerninos, they think of antlers. One can look at Elen as the feminine side of the antlered god. The feminine side of the god of nature, where we have Vishnu, if he was looking into a mirror, like the magic mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most feminine of them all? We have Vaishnavi Devi. So if Kala looks in the mirror, he has Kali, where Ganesha has a feminine aspect called Ganeshvari. We see Bhairava with more of a, if you look at his feminine aspect, Bhairavi, not just a wife, but the feminine side, the soul. Where we see, of course, Vishnu is married to Lakshmi. We see Shiva married to Kali. Hey. We see Brahma married, he was married to Sarasvati, then of course they get divorced, and Gayatri. But we also have Brahma and Brahmani, Indra and Indrani, the feminine part. Now that's in Hinduism. But here we see the goddess of nature, and she's seen she's really wild looking. Like, this is more of a cleaned up version of her. Like, come on! Her hair is red and wild, and it's tangled, and it has leaves and twigs in it. And we see her barefoot, that she looks almost where they have like her shamanic, and wearing, if anything, rawhide. And here she carries a staff in the light, because she is the light of the ways. She's a goddess of the roads, and in which Empress Elen creates a Sarn Elen, which is still called Sarn Elen, and you can still walk those roads. From over 2,000 years it was made. She made roads to have Britain protected. So we have the roads of Elen. So we see that this goddess, who before she becomes, or seen as the Empress, she was actually worshipped in the Paleolithic times, and by different names, but they fought by the reindeer. So the Sami people, and people in Russia, people in Britain would follow the deer tracks. And of course, the deer and the reindeer gave them everything. Gave them clothes, gave them shelter. They used the bones for tools. Of course, they used every part of the animal, like the Native American did with the buffalo. So we see her, let's get into the roads. She deals with all roads, including crossroads. She's a goddess of crossroads and all paths. She's a goddess of side of roads and dirt roads, paved roads, modern roads. She's a goddess of spiritual roads. She's a goddess of maps. She's the goddess of the spiritual path, the spiritual crossroads. She is the goddess of all paths, and she would also be the goddess of travelers, be it astral traveling, mentally daydreaming, or physically walking, or in your car, or taking a plane, a train. Planes, trains, and automobiles. One can call on her for protection. One could call on them to find their way. One is to call on them when they're confused. One is to call on them to make sure they don't get into accidents, or even help them to avoid a speeding ticket. She's a goddess and the guardian of all that journey, be it physically, mentally, spiritually. She's a goddess of all pathways. Elen is light. She's the shining light. She's the spiritual enlightenment. She's a goddess of the shamans, of the old ways. She's a goddess that can illuminate your way and your mind. The aha moment. She's also the goddess of the roads to rivers and even to the ocean. She's a goddess of sacred wells. In fact, there's a well of Helen. And also spiritual streams, and actually physical streams I should talk about, and streams. And so Elen, her sacred colors to her are definitely reds and greens. Her season would definitely be that of spring. And a good day to really honor her would be Beltane. Her direction is given southeast. Her animal definitely is deer, but also has been seen as mare and horse. And also like, I'm trying to think of like a really rare type of crow in Britain and the Celts. It's a type the cough, I think, Cough. It's a really rare one. So anyways, the story in the Mabinogion is called The Dream of Maskin Wledid, W-L-E-D-I-D, what they call Maskin, but it's really Maskin is actually the Roman Emperor Maximus. Actually, the companions were 32, not 37, sorry. So some of the things, like the herbs and the trees that are sacred to her, are definitely the birch tree, very sacred to her, especially the silver birch, pine trees, and fir trees. Fly agaric, which is the Amanita muscaria toadstool. It's also called like a mushroom. I think it's more of a toadstool. Also, we got vervain, which is sacred to her, which is a really powerful herb. What else? Ooh, her scents are pine and musk. And also that woodsy scent. And also the scent of a bonfire. It's just that wildness. She's a goddess of freedom and wild behaviors. Now the fly Agaric Mushroom is red and white. I'm going to get into the Santa Claus thing. And you'll see like some of the, like the shamans would dress like in reds. And the deer would eat the fly Agaric. Okay, with no consequences. Because it could be it's toxic to us humans. Unless it's with the way they unless it's processed right by medicine, like foxglove. You wouldn't go around eating foxglove, right? But thanks to the formula is a big pharma, it could be used for people with heart problems. So the fly agaric, the deer will eat it, and then they'll piss. And the urine actually has all the hallucinogens and none of the toxins. So what the shamans would do is drink it. And they basically would fly, in quotations. They would leave their shelter where there's like a hole in it, and spiritually, and then come back giving gifts. So it was also said that, you know, drew some type of deer, which sort of like fly and drop gifts. And here we see the Santa Claus myth, where they say, you know, you ever read about Santa as a shaman? Well, she's a shamaness. Carolyn Wise is the one to come up with Elen of the Ways. But in Britain, she was also called Elen of the Hosts, Elen of the Roads, Elen of the Pathways. Caroline Wise did a lot. She didn't just coin it up and just make it up and just pull shit out of thin air. She actually did her research. So maybe Elen is not like millions of the name of it's not millions and millions of years old. But we see that her name has connections to Saint Helen, where it says that she used a piece of the true cross to heal people, where Elen can use wood to heal. Where wood was used to heal. We also hear stories about the abduction of Helen, the wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta, which sparked the Trojan War. And Helen was a woman of legendary beauty. I believe possibly a child of Zeus. So in which Eris was not, when Zeus held a feast on Mount Olympus to celebrate her wedding, Eris was not invited. So she drew the golden apple to the prettiest, which caused Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera to fight for the apple, in which, of course, they had Paris judge it, and no matter what, I think Paris should just divide it in three and say, you're all beautiful for this reason. But he gave it to Aphrodite through her promises, and to be the most, because She was named the most beautiful of the goddesses. And, of course, Paris is not going to fare well. No matter what he did. He should have just tried to split the apple in three. So the tears of Elen is actually the fly Agaric. Again, the Amanita muscaria. I don't trust you, little boo. And those are found mainly in the base, by the base of the silver birch and pine trees. Now, I did hear stories that a shaman sometimes would eat it, and that the other devotees would drink his urine. But I know this toadstool is toxic. Do not try it. And yeah, drinking reindeer urine. I'm not gonna go recommending that, but that's what they did. And yeah, I know that urine from animals are drunk in certain temples even today, like the Karni Mata, which is the rat mother temple, where they have these white rats that are there, and they would literally, with the rat urine, bless themselves. Even with the regular rats, there's sometimes the temple rats or the temple rats that keep the outside rats away. And I know in some places they would drink cow urine and find the urine so sacred. But again, I'm not promoting urine drinking. So we see Elen as a goddess where she could be found. Where would you find Elen? You will find her in the forest. You will find her on the wooded mountains. You will find her on the roads and on the pathways and on the crossroads. You will find her underneath pine trees and silver birch. You will find her another thing that she's associate with her. You know how they have the holes in the tree, especially in the base? Yeah, how it's a natural hole. That's where you'll find Elen. That's a pathway to her realm. She dances and lives with the fairies as well. She's the goddess of the will o' the wisps, the fae. She deals with the nature spirits. So where you see those big roots, where it looks really mystical, that's her. She could be found in the time of dawn and dusk, in the mists of the forest. She does like her mist and like going through the mist. It's really cool. So she could be a good one to call with Kerninos. You can call, I know it's Greek, but you can call her with Pan. Some people have. Some people feel that she is a good one with him. And she's the goddess of Albion, which Albion is an ancient name for the islands of Great Britain. She's also the goddess of sacred springs, not like I said springs as well as streams, but also, one thing I forgot to mention, waterfalls. Groves are also sacred to her. Wild animals, and especially the deer, all deer. So we have the people that traveled the deer path, where the deer would travel a certain path and the people would follow that. So we see the deer pathways are associated to her. So we see the reindeer, then later on the red deer. She's an amazing energy. She's calling out to people now. And do not mistake her for something that's not powerful. She is very powerful, and she's old, and she could teach you the ways of meditation, the ways of spiritual traveling, the ways of herbalism and magic, and the work with trees. That the woods are not inanimate, they are animate. They have a spirit, they have a life within them. And there's ways to connect, with it, that you can connect spiritually with. You could go to the park and connect with the tree, with the rocks. You can ground your energy into it. If you make a staff with her, you can use a pine or, of course, birch. But don't hurt the tree. You can make a wand out of deer bone. You can use magical tools made from antlers. And you can see she holds a lantern for light as she lights the ways. She's a guide. She has a ball on top where she can show you things. Not just of what's going to happen in the future. Deep within yourself. Deep traveling within. Not traveling just outside, but within. She can use her staff. In Ireland, there's also stuff called, it's a shillelagh. It's called a shillelagh. And it's not just a walking stick. It was also used in magic, which later on becomes a walking stick. You can use this for circle casting and literally calling energies with it. This crystal ball, how can I say this? Is to look within and find magic. To look within and find power. To look within and find your inner truth. Who you are. To look within and learn how to travel. Learning how to be one with nature. To finding the spirit within all things. And finding out that you are interconnected. You can close your eyes and visualize a forest. And also another thing that she deals with is caves. Caves in this sense represents the womb. But also she deals with parts of the underworld. She deals with the spirits. Elen deals with the spirits, and she can be used as a guide to help the spirits find their home or find their way, to find their way to you, to find their way to the other side, to find a way to where they want to be or where they need to be at. One could drum and do a beat You don't even need a drum. You can use, if you don't have a drum and you want to do something like a beat to get, as you can see, you can quiet the energy and increase the energy. You can use your altar. You can tap your altar. Trust me, lightning is not going to come out of the sky and hit you because you're tapping your altar and using it as a drum. You can use your feet. And if you don't have neighbors downstairs, you can like tap your foot. Don't disturb your neighbors. And don't do it too hard where you're cracking their roof. One can clap their hands and get into a rhythm. Remember, she is the goddess of wild abandon. She's what a modern person would say savage. So if you really want to connect into that wild self, you had a hard day at work, you're in a cubicle, you're wearing a suit, now it's time to break loose, let down that hair, tear off those clothes. You ever dance with Ellen in the pale moonlight? I had to throw that out. Now, of course, I'm not telling you to go run outside naked and get arrested and say, well, Calamir told me to do it. Use common sense. If you get arrested, your fault, not mine. But remember, I'm the evil genius. That's what the sign says. Or is that the sign of my cats? Lady Boss sure loves to be here. I call her the tap dance cat. She just gets her hat and her cane. Remember the shillelagh? She gets her hat and her shillelagh, her shaman hat and her shillelagh, and start tap dancing all over my altar. And then she does the rocket kicks and knocks everything in and out. Her and her brother. I don't give a shit. They just go on wild abandon. Let's knock everything on mommy. You have no idea how many statues I had to repair or replace. So yes, she is that wild, running, free energy. And sometimes we just need to do that, but she's also the calling of spirits, the calling of power. She is light, but she's also hidden. I think she likes being hidden. She likes that very, very much. So also, by the way, Saint Helen is the unofficial patron saint of archaeology. Ooh. Here we find the ancient stuff, uncovering of ancient cities and ancient civilization. Here we go, seeing her and dealing with ancient things. So also, we see in her guise of Elyn, Elen, she may be even connected to cattle, death, rebirth, farming, and the sea. She is a goddess of the forgotten. Elen is the goddess of the forgotten and reclaimed memories. Reclaiming of ancient memories of ancient times. She is your inner crystal ball, your inner compass, your inner discovery, and to reclaim your sovereignty, to reclaim yourself, your power that was taken from you. to reclaim the words that were taken from you, to reclaim your spirit that was trodden down by your conquerors. Who was your conquerors? Was it the bullies in school? Was it an ex-wife, an ex-husband? Was it your mother or your father who took your words from you? Who took your ways from you? Who made you feel as if you were nothing, as if you were a plaything? Who took your freedom from you? Who took your dignity? Elen is the reclaimer. She is the reclaimer. And not only that, to bring you back to the old ways. To bring you back your dignity, your regalness. To turn you from a withered tree to a tree full of life, of leaves, of flowers, of beauty. Elen can be used as the goddess of natural remedies, holistic medicine. So we see her from her ancient Arctic lands, and into the forests, and into the mountains, from Northern Europe and the British Isles. We see Elen and her spiritual journey to coming back to us. Coming back to us. Now let me show you a good book. I had to reach for it. Finding Elen, The Quest for Elen of the Ways. Edited by Carolyn Wise. Forwarded by John Matthews. I would say this is an extremely important book with many different articles by different contributing authors. There's another book. I haven't read through it all yet, so I'm not going to neither put it down or recommend it. But this is great. And they said in the book that in this painting that they were trying to preserve part of woods that they didn't want cut down. So what they did is underneath the painting, they put sigils and affirmations and different things that they put, and then they covered it with paint. But as you can see, this is definitely showing Elen clothed by leaves. Here she is with a hound. I should have said that she also deals with hounds. Here we see Artemis dealing with wolf. And she can also deal with the wolves, which is also, before the hounds, we had wolves. Before the canines became domesticated. On their forms as a wolf. So other things about this goddess. Is that she teaches there will be sun again. There will be light again. The day can begin again. She is the goddess. She is a healer, a goddess like inspiration. She is the Awen. the truth. And she is the fertility of the land. She is the fertility of the animals. Another thing that she deals with that I didn't say, remember I told you about all different roads, including ley lines. Yes, ley lines. One could even say the imaginary line around the earth, the equator. She's also dealing with that. Now some people have imagined her with like blonde to auburn hair, but a lot of people agree that it's more like the red hair. Yeah, redheads weren't, I don't know when it came into, but it wasn't, when humanity began, it wasn't, red hair became, I'll get it later into the history of humanity. I'm not saying it's a new thing, it's not. And by the way, when Maskin had a dream, he didn't see her as wild. He saw her wearing silks and red fastenings across her breast. She also wore like a gold brocade surcoat with a mantle pinned by a brooch. Now her headband that she wore were made of gems, especially rubies, and a belt of red gold. Just to give you an idea. So we see her in her regal aspect. So, oh God, I've been talking about 47 minutes about her already. She's a goddess that needs to be more experienced than just talked about. She's a goddess that just thinking about her, she can come to you. Just taking sit down, take a few breaths, visualize yourself in the forest, and you just, and sometimes you don't even need to say her name, she'll come to you. Just thinking about her. So I invite you to find your pathway to Elen and let Elen find her pathway to you. Get to know each other. Maybe hold a few twigs in your hand, a few leaves. Or visualization, if you're good at visualization, smell the forest. Hear the leaves crunching underneath your feet and smell that muskiness coming to you. This is my only statue of her, which I'm trying to keep my cats from breaking her. And she has her plaque right here. Oh, it's Miss Kitty! Hi, Miss Kitty! How are you doing? Everyone say hello to Miss Kitty. I don't know where Shadow is. I think I want to show Shadow. I gotta carry the phone with me. So, let me go see if we could say hello to Shadow before I let you go. I gotta go to the bedroom. Oh, here's Sir Mew Mew. He wants to say hello to everybody too. And Lady Boss. Ta-da, she's on the cat tree. Let's go find Shadow. Shall we? On a journey to see Shadow. Oh, he's not here. I guess our journey failed. We don't get to see Shadow. Oh! We have succeeded in finding Shadow. There he is. Oh, he's mad. So anyways, I want to thank you for watching this video. And as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe and share this video with your friends, your family, your social media, your Facebook group. And if you like this video, I don't have a Patreon account, but how about donating to groups that protect the forest, charities that protect the forest and help plant trees? How about that? And into protecting our natural wild habitat. And as always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day or evening, and as always, blessed be.